co-op like so many times.
Mhm.
Um, I used to work for the University of Michigan, so I was a development director over there for quite a few years, and always on my way in. But I have to admit, I've never stopped in, so I'm going to make that my mission to actually go in and take a peek. Now I know it's a member service. Are people allowed to walk around, or how will I be greeted at the door with a "you can't come in"?
No, it's totally open to everyone. So as a member, you basically you invest in the cooperative. The members are considered our owners. So they're investing money to keep the co-op stable, also to help do whatever needs to be done physically in the co-op, so that those funds are used that way. But the co-op serves everyone. That it's welcome to everyone that comes in and shops. It has been a cornerstone of the downtown people that live downtown. And I know that the old Fourth Ward people really value the co-op in that area of town. So our base our shopping area, where we see the people coming in is typically about a mile radius of the co-op, but people come in from out of town that used to live in town, but still shop at the co-op. So, and we're online now with purchasing through the online portal, and
Wow.
people can do curbside pickup after they place an order. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so we've adapted. We've never closed per se
Mm-hmm.
during the epidemic or the pandemic, but we've scaled down our hours a little bit, and also, as other businesses have done, limited the number of people that can come in at a time. So
Sure.
there's often a line outside of the co-op. If you're coming in, you just have to wait for somebody to leave or a couple of people to leave. So
Yeah. 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 We've all had to adapt for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was surprised to see that you guys have been around a lot, much longer than we have. So we are at 38 years and you are at 50.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, we celebrate our 50th anniversary this July. That's when we filed our articles of incorporation. So yeah, it's a big deal, but it's also hard to celebrate when there's a limited amount of ways that you can celebrate. So
I know. I love a reason to be able to celebrate. So can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Everybody?
yeah,
Okay, super. All right. I'll kind of get started here. So yeah, I was mentioning we've been around since 1982. The Shelter Association of Washtenaw County is such a mouthful, and I think it lended itself to, we had many multiple scattered sites throughout our history until our Delanus building was built in 2003. So our Delanus building is our primary shelter location, with the addition of faith-based organizations that pick up warming center through the months of November through March. So during the coldest months of the year, our 50-bed facility isn't large enough to help the entire population of those experiencing homelessness. So we rely heavily on our faith-based organizations. So while we're a 50-bed facility, we do support anywhere from 150 to 170 people at one time. And that number could even be a little bit greater if people are just coming in, not seeking shelter, just maybe working with case managers, coming into the kitchen and getting a free meal. Sometimes people just taking showers, using our address, for employment. So that's how we're able to help as many people as we do. Our 50-bed facility is made up of 35 beds for men and 15 for women. And these are non-COVID times. So that's 50 beds right there. And then we help another 70 plus people on our cafeteria floor and service center floors in those cold months. So everybody gets a mat and a blanket. Not the best accommodations, but it's certainly being out in the cold right now. And then again, I mentioned our faith-based organization. Things are a little bit different with COVID right now. We can't have that many people in the building. So we have to reduce our capacity to 70 people in the building. So we have one faith-based partner that's taking on 25 people right now for the entire month. So really rotating shelter is for about 20 weeks, and it would be a different faith-based organization each week. But now, because of COVID and transportation issues, faith-based partners are taking on a month at a time. I'm so happy with this model that we have, because last year when COVID hit, we needed to extend warming center / COVID care, and our faith-based partners were not willing to participate at that time because the virus was so new and so scary. So we did have 2 positive cases in the very beginning of April, and we have had 0 since then, based on all of our safety precautions, proper training, health screenings, and then the distancing in the multiple locations. So we have a faith-based partner, the Delana Center. We are operating at a hotel right now as well. So we have those 3 sites going on right now. And at the peak of COVID, we had 4 different sites going on. So this has definitely taken a strain on us operationally. Financially, we have had to hire many case managers and operations specialists. So since COVID began, we've hired over 50 new people just to help us with meeting the client's needs, transportation needs, case management, engagement with clients. So in the beginning, it was very frightening as well. We weren't looked upon as if we were the healthcare industry, so to speak, where they were all considered our heroes, and yet we were working with this population without the safety equipment that we needed. We didn't have face shields, we couldn't get face masks. I think we had 2 operating thermometers, but all of that has changed, and so has the mindset of our employees. People are much more secure in working with this population than they were in the beginning. But with all of those troubles that we've had, and since most of them are going away, the things that aren't going away are some of the needs that we have. We still have an incredible need for staffing. Our clients are really suffering or experiencing a lot of isolation. There's no place for our clients to go in the daytime. During normal operations, our day shelter would be closed at the Delana Center just to encourage our clientele to engage in activities outside of the shelter, but you pretty much can't go into a restaurant, you can't go to the library, everything is so limited. Bookstores, retail outlets are limited. So we are really scrambling right now to identify day shelter. So we have the night shelter figured out, but day shelter, many opportunities that we have had have really fallen through the cracks. We have a 4th location set up for the overflow. We are anticipating an influx of individuals needing services based on unemployment. Many of our clients who would work in the service industries like restaurants or retail outlets with all these limited hours, their hours are being cut, and many of our clients aren't able to have the employment that they're usually used to. Not even our clients, the entire, much of the population. So we are anticipating an increase in about 20% of people needing our services. And for that, we do have overflow shelter plan in place. However, the facility that our clients will be going to, they have to be out by 5 a.m. And then there's no day shelter and nowhere really for them to go until they can come back into evening shelter. So it's not really ideal. Meals are a little bit challenging right now as well, because Food Gatherers manages our community kitchen. However, there are no tables set up in there because of social distancing efforts. So all meals are sort of to go. So those that do have a bed with us are staying on their third and fourth floors in the daytime, but we have a real call to the community, a cry for action for people to loan a space, to talk to us about a space, rent a space to us, which we would fully manage. So those are some of our greatest needs right now. And volunteering. I feel so fortunate that our faith-based partners came through and bought us our first ever shelter van. So in our 38-year history, we've never had a vehicle. And now we have a 14-passenger van. So we're looking for volunteers to transport clients back and forth, to pick up meals, transport meal, maybe work on some of the floors with some of our clients. So I jumped right ahead to our current situation, as opposed to telling you all the ins and outs of homelessness, just because I wanted to get your attention right away. COVID is on everybody's mind, but I'll slow things down a little bit now and talk more about our clients themselves. So many, if you've lived in Ann Arbor, you certainly have experienced people walking amongst the streets that are homeless. Perhaps maybe some are panhandling. One thing you don't see a lot of in Ann Arbor are people pushing shopping carts with all of their belongings. That's because we've really built a reputation for ourselves, and people know that they can store their belongings at the Delana Center if they're experiencing homelessness. So they at least have a place they can come and go during certain hours to access their belongings. But really, what is homelessness? The people that you may see on the streets, or people that you may come encounter with. Mental illness. If you asked our clinical director how many people suffer from mental illness that come into the Shelter Association, he'd say about 70%. And that's anywhere from anxiety and depression all the way up to bipolar and schizophrenia. Anybody trying to manage COVID right now is experienced increased anxiety and depression. So that number really can jump up to 100% as far as I'm concerned. Many of our clients suffer from mental and physical disabilities. So many are unable to work. We have people that are in wheelchairs. We have people that have, lost their jobs because they've been roofers and they've fallen off roofs and had, accidents at work. Seniors, 35% of our population are seniors. We do reserve about 10% of our beds for veterans. So you definitely see veterans coming through our building on a regular basis. Chronically ill. If you live on the streets for 1 year, they say you age by about 15 years, and definitely your health, is compromised. So we have definitely people that have suffered from heart attacks, strokes, advanced diabetes, all sorts of, different cancer, that come through the shelter as well. Domestic violence sufferers, about 1 in 5, and human trafficking survivors. We saw an increase of about 8 to 10% last year of human trafficking survivors coming through the shelter. We definitely have a returning citizen population, probably about 10 to 15%. We have youth that have aged out of foster care. Pregnant women. While we are an adult-only shelter, we have definitely had pregnant women come through, and then the moment they have that child, they might go to another facility in Ann Arbor. Many college students are hiding amongst us. So many will come, take showers, they're couch surfing. They were smart enough to get maybe a scholarship, but it didn't include, room and board. So they come, they eat a meal, they take showers, they store their belongings. And then, maybe they're couch surfing on one of their classmates' couch. And then we've definitely seen many working professionals who, for some reason or another, maybe it was a divorce, maybe it was the loss of a child, that just really aren't able to function in society the way that they were, and kind of find themselves in a situation where they've lost everything. Many of the people that I just mentioned, one thing they share in common, obviously, is poverty, and the other is a lack of a support system. So while you and I might be able to go stay with our children or a cousin or friends or have some family members, these bridges with family members have either been burned, they live out of state, or they just have nobody that they can lean in on for a support system. I probably touched briefly about some of the causes of homelessness when I was describing the faces of homelessness, but it may surprise you to know there are over 500,000 Americans experiencing homelessness. There are over 194,000 that are unsheltered and 350,000 plus in shelters. Here in Ann Arbor, the numbers go back between 3,300 and 5,000 for those experiencing homelessness. And as I mentioned to you earlier, we help about 1,400 of those individuals each year. Some of those reasons obviously are lack of affordable housing. You can't live in Ann Arbor and not know how expensive rent is. So when we place people in housing, it's typically in Ypsilanti about 99% of the time. The housing wage is $21.21. The renting wage is $16.38. And many of our people are making minimum wage. So I think that's under $15 now. Many of the people that come through the shelter are living on Social Security and disability, which might be $771 a month. So these certainly are, there's not opportunity for them to pay for rent and to clothing and food. Definitely people become homeless because of loss of employment or underemployment. Underemployment is huge right now, as I touched upon with COVID. People's hours are being reduced right now. We talked about the chronic health condition. One thing that I might jump into later when we talk about some of our services is you may have read an article long ago about people experiencing homelessness that might check themselves into the hospital for a heart attack or a stroke, and then being discharged right back out onto the street. So we opened up a recuperative care center with a 9-bed pilot program. So hospitals could actually discharge individuals to us, and we could take care of those individuals for about 40 days before they either get into housing or into one of our residential programs. So nobody has to manage their illnesses out on their own, out on the streets. Falling income, of course, pension elimination, divorce. I had 3 individuals when I first started, 3 men, all handled their divorce differently. Became all in each depressive stage. One turned to alcohol, one turned to drugs, and one turned to gambling. We're talking about 6-figure earners in 1 year that lost everything. The depression had them, like I said, gamble it away, give it away, and then they find themselves homeless. We talked a little bit about physical disabilities, mental and cognitive ability. And we certainly have people that come through the program that are abusing substances. It's probably about 20%, so no greater really than the rest of the population. And I always shudder when that's the conception or misconception that people have out in the community, that homeless shelters are a home for all the drug addicts and alcoholics. No, we don't judge people on what their circumstances are. We just offer a hand up, not a hand out, to help people get in touch with what their situations are. And I think that's something that really makes us so successful. Is our case managers really meet people where they're at, identify what their issues are. And because we understand that substance abuse is a problem, when someone comes to us and they come to terms with their own sobriety, and we may not have a bed for them, we know how important it is for them to get out of their current environment that might encourage them to use substances. So we will simply put a mat out on the floor in the hallway with a blanket and pillow just till someone can get into a substance abuse center. So we're really successful with helping people in that next phase of their sobriety. We talked earlier about human trafficking. Family violence is really big. You know, youth that are living with their family members and taking a lot of abuse and being pushed out, or just having so much trauma in their life that they can't live in that environment any longer. And without the support of the family and the income that the family provides them with, they find themselves homeless. Sorry, we're scrolling down here. So again, we're so successful. I talked about our case managers meeting people where they're at. Our case managers specialize in veterans affairs, medical affairs, substance abuse, regular intake, and housing specialists. So we work on ending homelessness, not stabilizing it. We have been really successful during COVID, helping to house over 50 individuals because of these rapid rehousing vouchers. I really believe that our case managers, our housing solution specialists, it's like a puzzle. I talked to you about how expensive rent is in Ann Arbor. Finding locations in Ypsilanti is even very, very challenging when you're faced with people making such low wages, but they are relentless in picking up that phone and reaching out to different properties and either getting the rent reduced or encouraging, you know, clients to room together, or, you know, calling a landlord and working something out and showing the benefits of, if you are on a rapid rehousing voucher or you are getting some housing supplements right now, how that income is very, very secure. So it's really, you know, them becoming salespeople and talking landlords into helping out this population. I'm very, very excited to talk about our success rate. So individuals that come through our program, we have a 91% success rate. So really only 9% of the population might come back to us for a second time to get services.
That's incredible.
Thank you. You know, I really believe coming through shelter, there are some benefits when it doesn't seem like it in the beginning. It takes every ounce of courage for an individual to walk through our doors and say that they need help. I mean, they have literally fallen through that last safety net. If somebody's living in poverty and is just scraping by, we celebrate their successes because they're still in a house. But the moment they break through that last safety net, we're very, very, very judgy. So I really believe, you know, one of the back pocket benefits of coming through the shelter is really, you know, having that sense of community, having that support system. So not only do you have case managers that are real advocates for you, that you can truly trust when the rest of the community may have turned you away, turned you down, gave you a lot of broken promises, and then the clients themselves end up becoming a support system to each other. So I kind of like look at it as, you know, building people from the foundation up, giving them a safe space to be, letting them know people care about them, that they can trust them, helping them break their barriers to housing. Many times people will come with so many excuses on why they can't access employment, why they can't find income, you know, family problems that they have to send their money off to, and they're helping others while they have nothing. So our case managers do a lot of redirecting and saying, this is the time for you to be helping yourself. You need to become stabilized before you can help somebody else. So going through our program really allows them to do that and really hit the reset button. So I talked to you in the beginning about our residential program, which is a 50-bed facility. We always have a wait list in the winter times. And again, I'm going to generalize without COVID. In the winter time, the waiting list is about 40 to 50 people, and then it jumps up to about 80 to 100 people in the winter months. When we talk about our non-residential program, that's when I was saying too, people may come to us for services that they may not, you know, they may not take a bed or ask for a bed. There are a lot of people in denial that they are homeless. Many, many, many people sleep in their car. They couch surf. They find places to sleep. Some are very, very terrified of shelter. You know, they've watched a movie or heard a story, or maybe thinking of a facility where people get stolen, you know, they're being stolen or robbed from them. That's not going on at the shelter here. Certainly it's extended camp. We've all been to camp. After a week, you want to go home. Well, this is home to people for a really long time. Right now, it's about 45 to 50 days that someone will stay in shelter, which those numbers are really good. When I first started 3 years ago, it was 75 days. Then it actually jumped up to 115 a year ago. And now, because of many of these rapid rehousing vouchers, we're able to get people in and out of shelter sooner. While our mission is ending homelessness one person at a time, our goal is definitely to house everybody that wants to be housed. So we helped 300 people find housing last year.
So
Our
Sarah,
COVID
if there's,
program,
oh,
I'm sorry?
Oh, just a question. If people are on the wait list, what is the alternative to the Shelter Association? Where do they go?
Yeah, so if it's the winter months, they may be on the wait list for a residential bed, but they're certainly staying with us in one of our warming centers program. So with a cot at the church, at the at a hotel right now, or on the floor in our cafeteria or service center. In the warmer months, people are on their own and maybe sleeping in parks, sleeping in their cars, couch surfing. One thing that we do is we try very hard to do is shelter diversion. So, you know, sometimes you have an individual or a family member that might be living with you and it looks like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You don't want to be that person that constantly has to ask them to save their money, to go to work, to take their medications, to go visit, to go to their doctor's appointment, you know, to engage in activities. And after a while, you don't see it, maybe a change in that individual. So you end up asking that family member or friend that you may have been helping to leave. So if we find out that an individual does have family contact or friends in an area, we will call and share what our programs and services are about. We will share that we will make sure that Joe is looking for employment and we will help Joe get an employment, or we will help Joe identify with Social Security to get his Social Security benefit. We will make sure that, you know, Joe can come to us in the daytime and take a shower, have a meal, work with case managers, partake in any other programs that we have. And then all we would ask is open your doors up at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, let Joe sleep on the couch or in the basement or anywhere. And then Joe can come back to us in the morning for breakfast. So when people see that an individual has an actual advocate and somebody that's doing the heavy lifting, they're more susceptible to allowing that individual to stay with them in the evening. So a little bit of that is going on as well.
Thank you.
I mentioned recuperative care. I mentioned our Pathways program. The Pathways program is really, you know, when someone comes to terms with their sobriety, we might just offer them a mat on the floor until they can get into a treatment facility. Non-residential and shelter diversion, I see I have that on there twice. We talked many times about our winter warming center, rotating shelter with our faith-based organization. If we have somebody that we think is a high-risk client, that someone that may have gone through the program, but we're just not sure if they're going to maintain their health, go to doctor's appointments, or pay their rent in a timely fashion, we will check up on those individuals for 1 year just to make sure that all of their needs are being met and they're able to manage life outside of a shelter. So that's our critical time intervention. Our community kitchen is managed by food gatherers, and another great partnership we have on site is with Packard Health. So anybody in the community can come to Packard Health or to food gatherers to get a free meal. You don't have to be a shelter client. And then our medical case managers definitely takes our individuals out on doctor's appointments. We're also looking for volunteers that might be willing to drive our vehicle and take individuals to medical appointments. I mentioned to you that 35% of our population are senior citizens, and quite frankly, we act like a nursing home to many of these individuals, making sure that medications are being taken, making sure they're getting the rest that they need, making sure they're going to their doctor's appointment. And not only do we make sure they go to their doctor's appointment, our medical case manager will sometimes sit in that appointment with them. I don't know if your parents are around and you still have an opportunity to take them to appointments, but you know, when our parents get older, they get fearful at a doctor's appointment. They get their medications mixed up. They become nervous. It's like they have auditory processing issues and they're not hearing well with it and receiving the information that a doctor is giving them well. So our case manager is pretty much there holding their hand to make sure they fully understand that medical plan for themselves. I know this slide might be a little bit confusing, but I really just wanted to show today's numbers. Those experiencing homelessness are we're sitting at about 3,300 plus people. People entering shelters and being homeless could be about 135 days right now. And people returning to homelessness in different programs throughout the community and in the state might be 20%. At SAWC, we helped 1,400 of those 3,300 individuals. The average length of stay is anywhere from 45 to 56 days. And as I mentioned earlier, only about 9% of the population returns back to SAWC for services. We do support more men than we do women, and that's by design. Usually women are the caretakers of children, so they might go to another facility in the community. So we have 35 beds for men in our residential program and 15 beds for women. This is kind of a breakdown of the population I shared with you. 35% of our population are senior citizens, but for us today, a senior citizen is really anybody 50 and older, because as I mentioned to you, living out on the streets and being homeless for 1 year really ages you by about 15 years. Many of our population in the shelter are Black. 50% of our homeless population are Black, African Americans. We definitely have more homeless men than we do women. There was another figure on this slide that was really, really important. Oh, I don't know that if it's on here directly. If you think about the population in Ann Arbor of our Black neighbors, it's only about 13%, but 50% of those are experiencing homelessness and get services from the Shelter Association. So things and some of the takeaways, I just really want people to see the bigger picture. You know, there are 8 million Americans that are just one paycheck away from being homeless. We talked about how homelessness ages you. And most people who are experiencing homelessness, they never thought that it would happen to them. However, 25% of the homeless population today experienced homelessness as children. So it's really a vicious cycle. One thing that our operations specialists do and our case managers do so well is really, really listen to individual stories. So that statement about so many people that come to us, they just really never thought that it could happen to them. They thought it was someone else, or, you know, that they would always have someone that could help them, or that they'd be able to manage their bills, or believe it or not, it's quite a shock to many people that they find themselves in these circumstances. I know we talked about this a little bit. $771 is the average amount an individual receives on Social Security. $800 is really, really cheap rent if we found that in Washtenaw County. Most move-in costs for an individual are $1,500. So one program that we have is our ISH program, Income to Savings to Housing. So when people are staying with us, we require that they save 70% of their income so that they can pay for their own first and last month's rent. A couple of years ago, we had a nice program called House More, Serve More, where the community was identifying how long it took for someone to stay in the shelter. And those numbers were rising because someone might have had a DTE bill for $100 that was preventing them from moving out. So we had a really nice pot for a while to help individuals move out of shelter sooner and paying some of their utilities and things of that nature. So that's one of the reasons why we've been able to decrease the length of stay for people coming through the shelter as well. So, you know, people ask, what can we do? How do we really help homelessness or prevent homelessness? And really, homeless prevention, I think, has everything to do with eviction prevention. I am not a politician by any means. I'm just sort of laying the groundwork, planting seeds for ideas, but it really has to start at a government level where it's not as easy to evict people today as it is. You know, whether there be more supplemental programs, whether there be policies and procedures that a landlord would have to file before they can evict someone, because once someone becomes homeless, it's that much harder to get them out of homelessness. So if we can keep people in their house and provide services to them to keep them housed, the community, the nation really saves a lot in the long run. Really, you know, affordable housing, we have to make housing affordable. I mean, everybody is for profit today, and every opportunity they get, they raise the rent. You know, there has to be some supplemental programs for individuals that are low income to be able to have affordable and supportive housing. Increased access to healthcare. You know, healthcare takes such a toll. Your health takes such a toll on your well-being and your opportunity to actually contribute to society. So keeping people healthy and making healthcare more accessible to people is one way that I think we can prevent or slow down homelessness. And really, it's the community. I mean, we would not have gotten through COVID these last couple months without the support of the community. You know, identifying that, you know, people that are homeless, you know, should not be judged. They should not have prejudice against them. Who are we to judge? If we have something to give, whether it's our time, our talent, or our treasure, you know, everybody's deserving of housing. You know, I mean, just close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself wandering the street for 1 week. just 1 week. You wouldn't make it for 1 week, and people are doing this months and years on end. So I'm a gabber. I know I talk very, very fast, but thank you, Mary, for asking a question along the way. Are there any other questions?
Well, I really appreciated this presentation. I must say that I didn't have, and I've worked at the Delana Center in food gatherers, but I didn't understand all the distinctions between the Shelter Association, Delana's, and food gatherers and Packard Health, and how they all come together. So it's really good to hear that. So I guess my question is too, like, if people want to support, what's the best way to support? Because I had thought, oh, it was probably through the food gatherers that's located in Delanis, but I can see from this conversation, it's so much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we always need financial support, and we ask people to, consider, who and what you're giving to. People ask me all the time, well, I saw someone homeless on the streets and I didn't know if I should give them any money. I said, you know what? I don't know if somebody is legitimate on the streets, because unfortunately people take advantage of the situation, and there's panhandlers, all walks of life, and may not need the money, but anybody coming through our building needs the support. So your, financial support to the shelter goes directly to our operational costs. The operational cost is really the human resources that help these individuals move on to the next stage in their life. We definitely have some volunteer opportunities. I touched upon some of them. I know people are a little frightened during COVID, but for our transportation needs, for example, we've got the sheets up, the plastic sheeting in between seats to protect people. Everyone's wearing a mask. We'd be able to provide you with a shield. We have these unique cleaning spray backpacks that we spray down the vehicles, before use. Food gatherers is an opportunity that's very easy to do and serve food to our population, but we need this food transported now amongst all of our locations. So food gatherers is packaging up the food, but we have a hard time getting it actually to the client. Direct investments in our clients, when opportunities, present themselves. One of our best volunteer programs is Art Break Studio, where a group of individuals are coming in right now and doing art to break up the monotony of shelter, giving our clients a sense of pride. Our walls are decorated with all of their artwork, and working at food gatherers, you may have seen that. So anytime you have a talent that you might want to share and with our clients, we can socially space you adequately. We have a group coming in this week, for example, that is doing resume training, job training, overcoming some of those barriers to employment, helping people, polish their skills. So any kind of talent that you might have, maybe it's a book club, maybe it's yoga or exercise or anything, we can definitely schedule some time for you to come in and give of yourself in that way. When it's not COVID, because I respect the fact that some people are concerned right now. When it's not COVID, I really promote those kind of things. And I commend you for, preparing the meals, but I also invite people to come share a meal, sit next to someone non-COVID, and help them to see that they're not invisible. Listen to someone's story. Someone you sit next to might have mental illness, and their story might not have absolutely any truth to it at all, but they don't need to know that we know that. We just want to encourage people to be able to express themselves and talk about themselves and make them feel like this community cares about them. There's opportunities to, serve on our board, to serve on some of our committees, like our development committee, to help us, do third-party fundraising or community outreach efforts. So really, I encourage you to reach out to me, email me, call me if you've got an idea about something. And right now, our greatest need, I mentioned, is day shelter. If you have a faith-based organization that might loan the day, a space to us in the daytime, maybe you have a family or friend that has a property that they haven't been able to rent out for 6 months that might loan it to us for 3. There's some great tax incentive. Maybe, someone that owns a studio that's empty in the daytime. We are desperate for daytime shelter right now. And many of the volunteer opportunities that I've mentioned are non-traditional. They are on our website, so you can take a peek there. So I hope that helped. And then we do have something fun this weekend. So on Saturday, we are doing our first ever virtual 5K walk, run, bike. So that's on our website. If you visit www.annarborshelter.org, we have about 100 people signed up. Some people are, walking from their homes. Some decided to grab a couple friends and walk together. Some have grabbed some co-workers that are walking. I know myself, I'm having about 15 friends come over, and we mapped out a course in my neighborhood, just so we could, do our part. And this event is called Hustle for Housing. So all proceeds definitely go back to the shelter, just help support our COVID-19 efforts. And then, sometimes people want to rally with the colder months coming ahead and maybe do a brand new coat drive or sock drive or thermal underwear drive, chapstick, gloves, hats. These are definitely things that are posted on our website that we're in need of. Those are just some of the needs that we have. So thank you for asking.
Great, thank you. And it was nice to hear how you differentiated between the various organizations that come together, but how they all make the whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Let's see if I had anything else on my list that I wanted to talk about. No, I mean, we talked about the mental illness component, and COVID is really making everybody crazy right now. I mean, people that I'm engaging with on a regular basis are just kind of off, even family and friends in my own life. It doesn't stop with homelessness. Our clients are feeling great isolation right now, so what can all of us do? We can all just be a little bit more compassionate right now, a little bit more patient, a little bit more understanding, not only with the population we serve, but really amongst each other, All right.
Words of wisdom. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the group that did sign on today. We're just really tickled with you choosing us as a charity. We're really pleased about that. That's something we're trying to work more on, is doing these kind of customer donation programs where at the point of sale or in a business, people are encouraged to reach out to us and find out more about us. So thank you so much for helping us kick off November. November is Hunger and Homeless Awareness Month. So normally the shelter does a slew of activities, a health and wellness fair, a comedy show, some kind of fun activity, donation drives. But again, COVID sort of put all that on hold, thus the virtual run this year.
Right?
Is Grace still on?
You might be on mute. He's
Oh.
still there.
Okay, yeah, let me.
Ray, we can't hear you.
Okay, so I
Sorry.
have recorded this, and I will make it available to the staff if they want to tune in, and anyone else who wasn't able to make it. So we do have this recording. Sarah, you just really hit a lot of bases there, and covered a lot of territory. I wanted to thank you so much for your time, what you put into this, and we have learned so much tonight.
Agree.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the great work that you're doing in the community. I promise I'm going to get out and visit the co-op. I think it's wonderful. I love every opportunity to build community, and that is definitely an icon in our community. So thank you.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Good night.
Great. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.